We met Sam on a social network where his profile shone with warmth. A photo from a mountain trail, a smile that seemed to reflect the rays of the sun. In the chat, he was cracking jokes like a magician pulling pigeons out of a hat. When he suggested we meet at a cafe, I agreed without hesitation. The cafe turned out to be a cozy lamp shop with stained glass windows, where the light split into copper highlights. The scent of vanilla and roasted almonds was in the air, and behind the counter, a barmaid who looked like a tattooed fairy was idly sorting through glasses. Sam was sitting by the window, which was littered with leather-bound books. He looked exactly like in the photo. Brown curls, a dimple in his cheek, eyes the color of old whiskey, warm but with a secret depth. He stood up, hugging me as if we had lived through an entire era together. His coat smelled of rain and cedar. Over coffee with maple syrup and a slice of apple strudel, time melted. Sam talked about working in the archives of the city library, about old letters that he deciphered like an archaeologist digging up forgotten worlds. When he offered to continue the evening with him, I nodded, catching myself thinking, wrapped in a baby blanket with him. Asterisk. The taxi took us to the outskirts, where the streets narrowed and the lanterns flickered, as if with their last strength. Sam's house stood like an old man in a faded suit, the facade with peeling paint, shutters creaking in the wind. But there was another world outside the door. The hallway smelled of coffee and bitter almonds, as if someone was mixing poisonous marzipan. The interior breathed of the last century, parquet with a worn pattern, a clock with a pendulum, framed photographs where the faces of the ancestors were erased, as if they had been touched by time. Sam told me that he got the house from his grandfather, leading me to the kitchen with a massive oak table. He collected curiosities. He poured wine into cracked glasses, and we talked until midnight, until the shadows grew longer than ourselves. When I was drunk, I noticed how his gaze sometimes slid along the walls, as if looking for someone's footprints. The room on the second floor turned out to be modest. A wooden bed, a chest of drawers with a silver, framed mirror, and on the wall portrait of a girl in an Art Nouveau dress. Her eyes, painted in rough strokes, followed me. After saying goodnight, Sam left a candle on a chair, the flame of which was writhing as if trying to escape. I fell asleep as soon as I touched the pillow, but I woke up from the cold. The darkness thickened like ink, and on the wall where the portrait hung, a silhouette in a long cloak loomed. The fabric was moving, even though the window was closed. My heart pounded in my temples. I convinced myself that it was just a dream, but when I opened my eyes again, I saw that the figure was now at the window, thin, with shoulders as sharp as a blade. I rushed downstairs to the living room, where Sam was curled up in an armchair, asleep. I screamed that someone was in the room, panic quivering in my voice. He searched the house, but everything was empty. Sam convinced me that it could be the shadows of the trees. The morning brought the aroma of fried bacon. Sam, as if nothing had happened, was joking at breakfast, but the shadows under his eyes betrayed insomnia. On the way home, silence hung in the car, thick as syrup. At home, I found that his profile had disappeared. The messages were erased, as if they had been burned by an invisible fire. The number didn't answer, and the next morning I went to his house. There was a vacant lot with a burnt tree on the site of the mansion. I tried to find out what kind of house it was and who Sam was, but I couldn't find out anything. Sometimes passing by, I catch the scent of cedar and hear laughter, like an echo from another time. About 7 years ago, I received an invitation to dinner with my cousins. I had never seen my cousin before and only talked to him on the phone. I was surprised that his family unexpectedly invited me after all these years. The invitation included an unknown address that the GPS did not know. I used the map and marked his location. When I drive, I notice how far I have moved away from civilization. Trees after trees, farms after farms. Where the hell am I going? I finally found a similar address that could be him. As I approached the house, I noticed how dreary it was. It is completely covered with leaves and branches. It can't be him, I told myself. As soon as I pulled into the rocky driveway, my aunt and uncle came out to greet me. They seemed excited and friendly. When I entered the house, I asked where my cousin was. Responding immediately, he went on business. He should come back later. We spent a couple of hours talking about my mother and family. My aunt made a delicious homemade roast, which I finished in a matter of minutes. After dinner, we played an addictive game of Uno. It was surprisingly fun and competitive. When we finished, it was almost dark, and my cousin was still nowhere to be seen. No matter what, I had to leave. It was almost dark, and it would have been difficult for me to get out of this terrible place. My GPS was ineffective, so I asked my aunt and uncle what was the best way to get to the highway. They looked at me puzzled. "I thought you were staying the night." I told them that I couldn't because I had work tomorrow and I couldn't afford to miss another day. "It's much better if you leave tomorrow morning. Trust me, you'll get lost." I shrugged my shoulders and told them not to worry. I'm an experienced navigator. I can get out of the Sahara Desert. Looking annoyed, they strongly recommended that I stay the night for my own good. At that moment, I started to get angry and annoyed. I sighed. "Okay, I'll stay the night, but I have to get up early for work." They both seemed strangely enthusiastic that I was staying the night. As soon as they went to get my sheets and pillows, I ran out the door and got into the car. I hurriedly pulled into the driveway. It took me a while, but I found a way out of this depressing place. I got home an hour later than I expected. It was 11, and I didn't want to wake my parents. As I climbed over the fence and entered through the back door, I noticed that the kitchen light was on. As soon as I crossed the threshold, I saw my mom sitting there impatiently. "Where have you been?" she asked. "I was at Aunt Deborah's. You knew that. Then why did she call and say you didn't come?" Until that day, I didn't know who I was visiting. Finally, I did all the paperwork, and now I have become a full-fledged owner of an apartment in the Forest Glen area, albeit not a big one, but my own, happy and glowing with happiness. Having collected everything that I had accumulated by the age of 25, I put it all in a trailer that I rented. While I moved my things and took everything up to the second floor, it was already dark. I decided that I would take the rented car tomorrow morning, and after closing the car, I went upstairs to my apartment. There were a lot of boxes and bags with things. I took out a cosmetic bag, some food that I took with me, and a bottle of wine to celebrate the move. I had enough for one glass and I felt tired and sleepy. Got up to check the water door and it turned out to be open, although I remembered for sure that I locked the lock when I returned the last time. I closed the door and went to take a shower. When I got back to my room, I don't remember falling asleep. In the morning, I went to find out about a new job, and when I returned, I saw that the door to the apartment was unlocked. Although I checked it 2 times before leaving, I went inside, listened, but there was no one. I was very scared and worried for my life. I called the police, and while they were driving, I went to the toilet. Suddenly, I heard someone trying to open the front door, and pulling the handle, I heard that it was a policeman, but they did not introduce themselves. I ran to the door and opened it, and only saw a dark silhouette running down the corridor from the apartment. After 2 minutes, the police were on the doorstep. I told them everything. They checked the stairs and the surveillance cameras, but no one came out or entered my floor. They advised to change the locks and install a peephole. I called the master the next day, and after that, no one else showed up at my apartment.